Lights, camera, action!
Welcome to Ropes2Reels. I'm at Adam Kota.
I like Drew Ferris.
Drew.
Yes.
Oh, man, this movie.
God, Adam, you have no idea. First off, I want to gauge something real quick before we go into this, because I want to change my Twitter handle.
Oh, okay.
And I have an idea. Well, not an idea. This was given to me.
All right.
So, I like Drew Ferris, so my name is Andrew, right?
Yes.
Well, actually, yeah, it's Andrew. So if you actually flip around and put the letters backwards, Drew Ferris,
right?
It's Sir F Word.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I want that to now be my new Twitter handle.
So you're going to create a new Twitter handle?
Sir F Word, yes, which is just my name backwards.
Is this just to annoy me so
Yes.
that I have to I'm trying to make this as family friendly a show
Yes.
as possible?
Yes.
You jerk.
Hey, you know what? It's F Word. It can be whatever word you want. You know what word I want.
Yeah. Funnel cake.
Well, that's 2 words. But anyway, beside the point.
Who doesn't love funnel cake?
That's a valid point. But funnel cake is something I've never actually eaten. But let's go move on.
And speaking of first times, Drew.
Yeah.
This is your first time watching
This is
Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Time seeing any of this.
Have you seen the first Gremlins?
Oh, of course I've seen the first Gremlins.
Okay.
My dad would... the only reason I could watch... is Gremlins horror? Or it's like family-friendly horror movie?
Yeah, that is a good question, man. What is Gremlins? Yeah, I would put it in the horror category, but it's a horror comedy. It's also kind of a Christmas movie, and
Yeah, it's a lot of things,
it's weird.
my mother didn't allow me to watch horror movies as a kid, but Gremlins was Steven Spielberg, the guy that did E.T. and Jurassic Park. Sure, we'll throw on Gremlins.
There was nothing terrifying in Jurassic Park.
Well, it was
Or
dinosaurs.
E.T. for that matter. That scene where the government agents break in and try to take him away.
Yeah, and he slowly dies? Oh, they both broke me.
Fun fact, E.T. started as a horror movie. The script was written as a horror flick and then changed to a family feature and then separated. And do you know what other movie was what came out of that? Poltergeist.
Damn.
Yeah, weird,
Spielberg
right?
in the 90s was on the frickin' ball.
Now, I know all of you listening out there are going, what is wrong with Drew and Adam? They are all over the place. No, we're just keeping theme with this movie because, wow.
Oh, my God.
Drew, I haven't seen this movie in years, and I don't even know where to begin.
This is incredible. Yeah, because I've only heard the horror stories. Like Gremlins 2 is the bad sequel and it's got horrible ideas. So it's like, I never watched it. And then you said, you know what? It's going to be we'll do the puppets thing. And I'm like, what the heck? Actually, we'll leave that because that's a whole shtick that we do. But I wondered what possible tie-in there could be. And then when it popped up, man, you know that Bobby Roode theme song?
Yes, glorious.
As soon as the reason we watched this movie popped up, that could have played immediately,
right
when my face lit
up. Moment. Now I want to juxtapose this with my wife who sat down and watched this. I love it when my wife sits down to watch these movies with me because 9 times out of 10 she is just the absolute curmudgeoniest person ever when watching these with me, and she kept asking, what is this? Why are you watching this for Ropes2Reels? And I said, oh, you'll see. And as soon as she saw it, she was like, oh, so let down.
So should we ask the very important question?
You know what? Why not at this point?
Yes.
Let's go for it.
What in the joint counter bail bonds does this have to do with wrestling?
These are getting more creative every week, and I love it. The Hulkster brother. Hulk Hogan
For
makes...
those of you that don't know, he went full Hulk Hogan poses
He's
right
wearing
there.
the bandana. He's wearing the muscle shirt. He's got the WWF World Championship on, even though he wasn't the champion at the time.
Did he?
Yeah, he's wearing the belt.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's amazing. And he full out breaks the fourth wall. We'll get to that. As a matter of fact, you know what? Forget it. We're just going to play it right now.
Gremlins in this theater now? Okay, you guys, listen up. People paid good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth. Do I have to come up there myself? Do you think the Grimsters can stand up to the Hulkster? Well, if I were you, I'd run the rest of Gremlins 2 right now. Sorry, folks. It won't happen again.
So that's what this movie has to do with wrestling.
Yay!
And thank all of you, all three of you, for voting on the poll. We appreciate it. Probably going to try some more of that in the future, so we'll keep doing that as well. Okay, big deep breath in. Let's talk about Gremlins 2, the new batch. I'm going to run over the plot synopsis real quick.
All right.
Then we'll get to our thoughts, and we'll go from there. An army of malevolent little monsters take over a high-tech corporate skyscraper when a cute and intelligent exotic pet is exposed to water. The Mogwai's owner joins forces with the Trump-like head of the corporation to regain control. I want to quickly talk about this because I clearly see the Trump connection between Clamp and Donald Trump. I clearly see that.
Oh, really? You thought it was Clamp?
See, Daniel Clamp, the guy who owns the building.
Yeah, I didn't think he was the Trump guy. I thought it was Forrester.
See, like, that's the thing. The weird thing about this, we'll give you a fun fact to start things off. Originally, the Clamp character was meant to be the full-out villain, but a couple of after they wrote it a few times, they thought, nah, we should make him a little bit lighter and have him be a good guy by the end of it. So they kind of moved Forrester into the villain role of the movie. But here's the thing. I do get the comparisons to Donald Trump, but I also see a bit of Ted Turner in there.
Yeah,
as well.
The reason I think it cements it as Donald Trump is you see when they were handing out the books when people were entering, it's the same cover of Art of the Deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's very clear that he was inspired by Donald Trump. But he's not bad. I like that character. Okay, let's talk about our initial thoughts before watching this movie. Andrew, you've never seen this.
Yes, and my name is Drew. Andrew's the other guy.
You're right. I apologize.
I'm not. Are you mad at me, Adam?
No, I'm not.
You only use my full name when you're mad at me.
You know what? This movie. There's no... Listen, their logic has no place here.
That is a valid point.
In this film. So neither do names. You could call me Steve for all I care. And right now I'd just be like, yes. Makes about as much sense as anything in this movie. So tell me, Drew, what were your thoughts going into Gremlins 2, the new batch?
I put this off for as long as I could. It's like, we have Ropes2Reels.
Okay, now wait a minute. I want to stop you. What movie then were you hoping that we got from the poll?
I wanted Muppets. I don't know.
That's fine.
Muppets has a deep place in my heart.
Kayla was excited too. She was like, "Are we gonna watch that Muppet movie?" I'm like, "Nope."
So yeah, and my heart was like, I want to watch Muppets. Then it's like Gremlins 2. It's like, it's notoriously bad. Maybe it's fun, kind of bad. I don't know. So literally, it's like, I got Ropes2Reels tomorrow. You know what? I'll just throw it down and watch this movie.
Okay, great. My initial thought before heading into it was that I hadn't seen this movie since I was a kid, and I remember it just being kind of, I don't remember much about it. Just I remembered a whole bunch of different Gremlins. And I remember like certain scenes stood out to me as being particularly terrifying as a child. And what I was hoping to get out of it was I was hoping that it had aged well. I was hoping that this is a movie that I find a lot of people our age tend to appreciate more as they get older. So that's what I was hoping. I was hoping that I would have a new appreciation for the film coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Let's break it down.
All right.
Film takes place a few years after the original in New York City.
Whoa, you're skipping the most important part of this movie.
Oh, please, well, go ahead and interrupt. As that is the format we follow here.
Yes, is where I interrupt you to bring in some
thoughts of the film.
Thoughts. I was going to be a little ruder about it, but then I realized, family friendly and all that. We open up with a Looney Tunes sketch.
or what we think is a Looney Tunes sketch.
It is. It's 100% a Looney Tunes sketch. Bugs Bunny starts to come out, but then Daffy comes out and kicks him out. You've been doing this for 50 years. I want to take over. And then it's just a skit of the effects guy playing with Daffy.
Yeah, and I thought it was a short. Like, because Warner Brothers was known for opening their movies with a Looney Tunes short here and there. But instead, Daffy says, well, let's just get to the movie. And the movie starts.
I don't know how. All right.
But let's be honest.
Yes.
That is kind of the perfect way to start this movie.
Yeah, where basically the audience just goes, wait, what?
Because
keep that feeling.
It is a living, breathing Looney Tunes cartoon, this movie. It is just so crazy, so nuts. In fact, one of the Gremlins is named Daffy. So
I guarantee you I know which one it is.
The googly-eyed gremlin.
Yep.
By the way, I want to stop for a second because we went over and we did the plot synopsis. That was not a great plot synopsis. If you want a great plot synopsis, type into your Google machine, Key and Peele Gremlins 2 sketch, okay? Where they basically talk about the creation of... That's all you need to know about this movie is that sketch.
It is a great trailer.
Go watch it. That explains the movie in a nutshell. Okay, so yes, it does start off with the cartoon.
And I thought that was a nice, like you said, nice little way to introduce the film. Now that I know what the film is, I really appreciate the zaniness.
Yes.
And then we open to a shot of New York. And you know what? New York has been in so many films that we could probably watch one a day and still not be done.
Maybe that'll be our poll.
New York and wrestling. See if you can bring them together. But I don't know. This shot of New York was kind of interesting. I liked it. It was something I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, wow, that's actually well shot.
Well, actually, that's not true, Drew. I was going to save this for the fun facts.
Oh.
But you have seen that shot before.
Have I?
You have.
Oh.
The opening aerial shot of New York City was stock footage from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh, that's right. I hadn't seen a CGI blue and red. God. Oh, okay. All right.
So within the first 30 seconds of this film, already it's off the deep end.
Wait, what?
This movie, I want to just walk you through this.
Okay.
This movie borrowed from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I want that to really sink in.
So we have Superman and Batman in this movie.
Well, it is a Warner Brothers production.
Oh, good God.
Joe Dante was years ahead of Zack Snyder. This is the real Batman v Superman.
If Batman and Superman, even if it was like, there's a dude dressed as Dracula. If there was a dude dressed as Batman, dude dressed as Superman, kicking
not just
Gremlins.
a dude dressed as Dracula. Dracula is in
That's
this
a
movie.
valid point. And we are getting way ahead of ourselves.
Listen, if you're listening right now and saying, this is absolutely crazy, welcome to Gremlins 2, the new batch.
It's an hour and 50 minutes, and give it 15. That's, well, not even. The way we described it, barely about 30 seconds into the movie, you're feeling exactly what you're going to be feeling. I'll admit, at this point, I'm still skeptical. I'm not really okay with this movie, but it's, all right, you intrigued me. Let's see what you got.
All right. So we start out at the shop of Mr. Wing, and we see some guys come in with suits on.
And a TV.
Which I thought was a funny kind of touch. This guy's all about technology, so he won't even communicate face-to-face. He does through a television. They want to buy his shop so that they can develop it some more.
Do you remember the time when the rich guys were passive-aggressive to the poor guys? Where he's
right.
like, I sell big things, you sell small things.
Right, exactly. It's a good scene.
Yeah, sets it up.
So they leave because they say, it's too bad he didn't accept the offer. And he says, oh, did you hear that cough? We have time. So unfortunately, Mr. Wing passes. We don't see him pass. We don't get a big sad scene, which I think is fine. This movie doesn't need...
Yeah.
Believe me, if there's one thing this movie is not about is sadness, which does become very apparent during, I think, one of the best jokes in the entire film later, which we'll get to. So what happens is that they start destroying this building. So nice of them to check the building to make sure there wasn't any live creatures in it, like Gizmo.
Or empty out this Chinese artifact, see if there's money
anything
in there.
of value there. They don't care. And so Gizmo, voiced by Howie Mandel, runs away and he's discovered by the security guard from Terminator 2.
Yep.
That's immediately what it was. Just the dude that get the thing through his eye. But of course, that's really unfair. It's the guys. I feel terrible, but I don't remember the actor, the twins. The set of twins.
I think it's like Dan and Dawn Stevens or something.
That would make sense. Anyhow, that was a sidebar that didn't need to happen. My apologies. They grab him and they take him to the Clamp building,
which has the greatest logo of any evil organization I've ever seen.
Describe the logo.
So a clamp is basically like a stop sign cut in half that is just slowly pressing on Earth. Now, you could have a C, just a regular letter C, and the full-blown Earth spinning around. But since it's clamped, it is a squished Earth inside a C that looks like a clamp. It is brilliant.
I want to quickly say that every time you say clamp, I want to yell out the clamps from Futurama.
I was holding back for as long as I could.
Don't hold back. Let it all go.
Let it go.
Yeah, wow, where do we even go from here? Okay.
Oh, we're introduced to discount Robert Downey Jr. and Winona Ryder.
Wow. Boy, you said it, man. I feel so... Zach Galligan. Wow, this guy has the charisma of wet cardboard. He's awful. And Phoebe Cates, she's real pretty.
But none of them can show emotion.
Yeah, it's...
They're perfect for each other. I'll give them that.
They are the perfect couple for sure. I can't believe they couldn't recast him. I guess they wanted to keep the integrity of the original, but...
Well, they had to, I don't know. You could have gotten Robert Downey Jr. He was young enough at that age. Time.
Man, he would have been a lot better, I'll tell you that much. Billy finds Gizmo, essentially, because this delivery, it's very convoluted. This delivery guy comes to deliver something to the genetics lab. And by the way, Christopher Lee is there.
Oh, yeah. They were talking. You're skipping a bunch of stuff, but
I know, because
we're gonna go for a long time.
The plot synopsis that I found online is not nearly as detailed as this movie deserves, because also, every scene needs to be broken down and analyzed.
They don't have name tags; they have barcodes, which is the stupidest and most genius thing I've ever seen.
The first 15 minutes of the movie is basically a way to show what can happen if we all become too reliant on machines. But it's kind of hilarious to watch it today, because you're like, yeah, that's today. You see so much of that technology is around today, but it also talks about the dangers of it and that's kind of the overall message of the film, which is that, don't let technology get in the way of what's really important, kind of thing. But it's fascinating, because that's what I was thinking, when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of insightful the way they're talking about this stuff. And then the Gremlins happen. And
5 minutes later.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. Oh, and whatever this Dracula dude, whatever this show is, I want it. I want this to be a weekly program.
This is a take on shows that were actually like that back in like
Tales of the Crypt and stuff like that.
Not even. We're talking about low budget, because you have to understand, back in the day, way back in the early days of television, television stations, especially local cable stations, would find these public domain, low budget, crappy horror movies. And in the vein of Elvira, she was the queen. She was the first one that started this. They would get these kind of, monster type characters to host these afternoon scary fests and stuff. And so the characters like the Robert Protsky character, the Grandpa Fred, they were very commonplace.
Wow.
And it's often been said that this is where guys like the Mystery Science Theater crew, this is where the inspiration for MSTK3 came from, was sitting around as kids watching these horrible movies on these Saturday or Sunday afternoon matinees.
Oh.
So this is actually in the vein of a long tradition of showing crappy, cheap movies on public access or on cable television so that they have cheap programming. So this kind of stuff. This is why we saw it in Fright Night. This is why, this is a trope that's constantly come up, because for a lot of these directors, Spielberg, Dante, etc., this was a part of their childhood, so it's something that they included as a part of it.
Oh, cool.
Plus, it was a great reason to put Robert Prosky in a bunch of makeup and dress him up, and then have Dracula talk to Dracula.
Have Christopher Lee just appear.
Yeah, Christopher Lee plays the lead scientist, and they have lots of fun with this, where...
And so does he. I like when Christopher Lee actually enjoys what he's doing.
He does. It is great, and the fact that they have a vampire bat gremlin in this, and then Christopher Lee gets kind of like does a little kind of mini monologue about it is great. Fourth
also,
wall breaking.
Vampire bat.
By the way, I hope if you're an audience member, you didn't invest in that fourth wall, because it gets broken early and it gets broken often.
I'll admit, at this point, I'm kind of into this movie, but I'm like half and half.
Right.
All right. So I'm like, okay, this is, it's at least a little fun. I can get behind this. And then something that brought me down a little bit was finally the Gremlins are introduced. Gizmo gets wet. The
in
eggs
the
are thrown
most
out.
inane, roundabout, weird way possible.
Yeah, it's like a Rube Goldberg that goes down a painting, and it's really...
It all starts with a broken water fountain, and it ends up dripping on Gizmo by going through a series of it is really, really overcomplicated. And I don't know if that was the gag, just this idea of like, let's make it really complicated that he gets wet somehow. Also, like, I'm going to be a bad guy for saying this, but honestly, they need to kill Gizmo. Like, they need to kill that thing, because clearly after the first movie, they felt like, okay, well, he's with Mr. Wing, that's enough. Billy does... Okay.
Oh, gee.
I'm sorry.
Oh, here we go.
I'm just going to get this out of the way, because I know I'll forget, because this movie is so all over the place. My biggest problem with this film is the nonchalantness of everybody in it. Like,
no, this is normal. This is commonplace.
Only Forrester seems to have an appropriate level of concern for when gremlins start approaching in this film. Everyone else seems pretty laid back about it. Just this idea of, oh yeah, those things.
No.
Okay, well, I guess we should do something about it. Everyone in this movie. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Everybody takes this, like, Billy doesn't panic when he's, now mind you, he also doesn't he doesn't really express any emotion. He's Zach Galligan, but I'm just saying, doesn't, get concerned that, hey, there's a gremlin here. This could be a problem. And then he's just like, Gizmo, great, we're going to bring you home like a puppy. This is not a puppy.
Also, when he's explaining to the TV crew in a very quote-unquote panicked moment, and everybody's making fun of him.
Oh, my God.
And then finally one jumps out and then claws at them, and he's like, told you. Guys, right? No, freak the fuck out. I really didn't mean to curse at that point.
Okay.
I apologize.
Let me write it down.
I'm sorry.
21 minutes.
This movie, man.
21 minutes, all right.
I think that's my first big word in this one.
Drew
though.
curses. Well, you are the F word, man.
I am Sir F word.
You are Sir F word.
Anyway, what I wanted to talk about though was the puppets. The puppets are great.
Rick Baker, amazing.
Jeez,
amazing.
The
work.
performances that the puppeteers do is incredible. CGI, very dated.
Rick Baker is the star of this movie.
Yes, he is. God, they looked like real creatures.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway.
And I almost got mad because when I watched it with my wife, she turned to me and says, "Why does this one look worse than the first one?" And I was just like, you don't understand. It's the ambition of this one that makes it amazing. Because like the first one, it's very dark and it's shot in certain angles so that it looks more realistic. With this one, clearly the budget was bigger. So they were just like, let's make them dance and let's make them, well, again, I go back to the Key and Peele sketch. Where are we, Drew?
So where we are is we're back at the lab.
Right, yeah.
So we're back at the lab and they have this syringe full of electricity. This syringe full of electricity goes into a rat. They then put a light bulb on the rat and the light bulb lights up.
Cool effect.
And then here's my note. I'm starting to love this movie. I see where they're going. I'm starting to love this movie.
They do set everything up very well. Like, I have to admit that
anything Spielberg puts his name to, the pacing is the best part.
It feels like the movie just starts to drag a little, and then we get the insanity. Yep. And then it's just like, it's basically like someone is driving a train, and then they pull that lever that makes it go full speed ahead and then breaks it off. Once the gremlins get there, they break off the handle because it's just insanity after this.
Also, So here's my nitpicking of this movie. So in the beginning, we're seeing the security system where they caught this dude smoking on his break.
Right.
So you can catch that, but you can't see this guy releasing the monkeys.
Also, weird to see people smoking in a movie.
And not be the bad guy.
Right. In 1990, this was just a thing.
Yeah.
So it was just weird for me to see that. Anyway, I want to talk real quick about the Canadian restaurant. Why does this not exist? They also, Billy and his boss. I'm gonna try and grab his name because
red hair.
Yeah, she is. Wow.
Yeah.
Haviland Morris is her name, and
is there a scientific reason why women with 80s hair are more attractive?
I don't know, but I'm gonna quickly take a sidetrack here. I have always thought of Renee Young from the WWE as being.
I know exactly where you're going.
I've always thought of her as being very attractive. And then I watched Southpaw, and she's got the big 80s hair, and I was like, wow, she is hot.
Yeah, Southpaw Regional Wrestling did not help with this.
And this is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. When I saw her in that, I was just like, wow, she's a hottie. And like, I don't know, you're right. I don't know why it is, and I'm sorry. I know if I'm offending anybody out there by seeming like I'm being a chauvinist pig, I'm not. I'm trying. I'm trying not to.
No,
These are all very complete women, and they all have. They're fantastic personalities, I'm sure, but there is something to be said about aesthetics.
See, here's
and they're just
thing.
beautiful.
Renee Young is a glamorous woman.
Absolutely.
She dresses finely. She acts professionally. She does a very good job.
She's wonderful.
And then they made her. Oh God, they made her hot.
Yeah. So
anyway, 80s hair. Just I don't know. Something gets me, man.
Kayla, if you're listening, start teasing, baby.
All right, back to this Canadian restaurant.
Back to the Canadian restaurant.
I love how they sell it like it's a restaurant that cleans fish in front of you. I never knew that we were known for that.
I know. Yeah, this is just basically every Canadian stereotype. And here's the thing. As a Canadian, I'm not offended. As a Canadian, I want this to be a place. Like
I want our own... what is it? Back Steakhouse? What is that?
Outback Steakhouse.
I want our own Outback Steakhouse where it's like it has nothing to do with our culture. It's just what they think we are.
Yeah.
I want that.
I love the Mountie. I love the chocolate mousse.
I love that they think it has horns.
Is literally a chocolate mousse.
Yep. Do you want an antler? Like they're presenting it like you want a cut of this side of the ham. What is this?
It's great. That's the best part of that scene because Zach Galligan's the other part. So
then we move on and we find that Clamp is played by Lex Luthor's father.
The Clamps.
And you know what?
Wait a minute. Wait, go back. What?
The Clamp, like the big guy, the head honcho. He plays Lex Luthor's dad in Smallville.
John Glover plays Lex Luthor's dad in Smallville?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So there you go.
So we have 2 connections to Superman already.
Oh my God, I never clued in. Yeah, we do.
Wow, crazy.
Also, we get it. Sorry, I made this movie has inspired so many notes.
Look, I'm going to tell you something. We're almost 30 minutes already.
Is this another special?
I feel like this is going to be a special because of so much that we have to talk about in this movie.
Okay, because this is a joke. This is one of my favorite jokes of the film, and it's just a throw-in.
Okay.
Because the next time they enter the building, it's like, come and join our theater for Casablanca, this time with color and a happier ending. Oh, solid joke.
Okay, so first of all, we have to talk about, I don't know if this joke was before The Simpsons made that joke or if it was after The Simpsons made that joke, but it did remind me of The Simpsons joke where they talk about how they change all the endings in the old folks' home because it angers up the blood. Secondly, this is another reason why I feel like he's a combo of Donald Trump and Ted Turner, because clearly he's a TV cable mogul as well as an industrialist. But the whole colorization of classic movies, and we have the Robert Prosky character talking about how it upsets him because, that's the way movies. This was a big thing when Ted Turner did it for Turner Classic Movies. He did this whole thing where he colorized all the classic movies for his network, and a lot of people were really upset about it.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, this was a big thing with Ted Turner. He got the rights to a bunch of these movies for his Turner Classic Movies network, and he colorized them. And a lot of people were upset about this because they were like, these are not how these movies are meant to be seen. They're meant to be seen in black and white. Now, I don't know where you stand on the issue. Personally, I don't have an issue as long as the original black and whites exist. I think having the option to see them in color is fine. I don't know that I would necessarily want to see them in color. I don't personally care one way or the other.
I think the reason to watch movies is to see a story and to get the director's tale. And sometimes it could be a reflection of the time. To me, it's kind of like putting a new frame on the Mona Lisa. It's not really necessary. Sure, some people may enjoy the new frame, but it's not how it's recognized. I don't know.
What an excellent, sensible analogy. Get out, because this is Gremlins 2. No
Gremlins
sensibility here.
Gremlins 2, where we're introduced to our new Gremlins, Daffy, the crazy googly-eyed one, and then I guarantee you that's Rocket and Muggsy. There is no way that those two Gremlins are not Rocket and Muggsy. For those of you that didn't watch Looney Tunes, those are the mobsters, the one with the short guy with the big hat that's always smoking, and then the dumb brute.
Yeah.
It's the Gremlin version of that. It has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And they start running amok. So the first place they run amok, let's talk about, is the cooking show. Any thoughts or notes on the cooking show?
Yes. This brought up an interesting point. If Gremlins eat people after midnight, does that count?
Well, now that you brought that up, let's talk about let's jump around a little bit, because this is Gremlins 2. Because there's a scene in the movie where they're essentially just questioning everything about the rules of the Gremlins.
Look, I didn't write the rules. Fair enough.
Which apparently was a big thing. This movie has so many in-jokes that it's hard to keep up with them. They move at such a breakneck speed, but that was a joke written because the first Gremlins was so heavily criticized for having rules that didn't quite add up and didn't make sense. And these, apparently, a lot of the questions that were asked by the staff in that scene are actual questions that were asked by movie critics during their reviews of the first Gremlins.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's a fun little wink and nod, but that is an excellent question, one that this movie will never answer.
No, absolutely not. Okay, then fast forward a little bit. Somehow Robert Downey Jr. lookalike gets an axe, right, and then he gets arrested.
Yes.
So then comes another
trying
joke.
To shut off the water.
Yeah. Then comes
which they never come back to as
Nope.
as an option. They never think to do that.
Nope. Well, because water is needed in the finale. But
yeah.
Question: he gets bailed out from his fiance bails him out, and then mimes are getting arrested. Why? I want that movie. I want the movie of this group of mimes getting arrested.
Yeah. As Billy is leaving the police station, there is a paddy wagon that is opened up and is. And a group of mimes comes out, and there's no explanation given. We don't know why they're being brought in. Obviously, they don't say anything. And to this day, I have no idea what was the point, except just, it's Gremlins 2. Let's put some mimes in it. So, yes, the Gremlins run amok on a microwaving cooking show, which I think was another very funny, clever kind of technology taking over our lives kind of thing. As soon as you saw the giant pot, you're like, there's a gremlin in there. There's clearly a gremlin in there. They blow up some cookware in the microwave, which sets off fire, which, of course, sets off the sprinkler system, which then leads these gremlins, the Rocky, Muggsy, and Daffy, to get wet. They start popping off more gremlins, and they continue to run amok, specifically in the genetics lab. This is where we get all of our different. This is where we get our gremlin sampler pack.
And in this, did you ever watch the Ang Lee Hulk?
I did watch Ang Lee's Hulk.
Do you remember the frog exploding?
I do remember the frog exploding.
That's the same effect that they use for the gremlins.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's
Look
just
at that. Look at Drew whipping out a fun fact.
Hey,
good for you, man.
Thank you. I do what I can. So before that, we get introduced to the secretary for Lex Luthor's dad, the Claw.
Right.
And this was when he's still talking to her. He's dressed in drag, this gremlin, typing away on this computer, mouthing off everything that Luthor has said. And immediately I knew this is the schlock movie I've always wanted.
Well, it definitely is schlock. I will give you that. So moving on from there, all these gremlins start... they've invaded the genetics lab, and this is where things get interesting, because this is where they really start to have fun with the different types of gremlins.
Also, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee walks in with a giant cocoon. Is that a reference to something, or is it just another gag that we don't know?
I have no answer.
All right, then.
Like a lot of things. Much like, put that in the mime category. We just... Isn't it weird that we're sitting here talking about the movie and there's like, literally we can put it into categories of like things we can explain, things we have ideas about, and the mime category. Put them with the mimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, also, here's where the paradox starts to hit in.
Okay.
By the way, our new it's no longer Ropes to Reels. We are now the movie police. And in this, he's reviewing Gremlins, the movie.
Who is he?
I can't remember.
Leonard Maltin.
Leonard Maltin is there, and he's reviewing Gremlins, and then Gremlins attack him. This is a paradox. This is what Doctor Who warned us about.
Not only is it he reviewing Gremlins, he is giving the exact review word for word that he gave the original Gremlins.
When he actually came on, that is incredible.
So I want to quickly think about the improbability of this. Leonard Maltin gave the original Gremlins a negative review. Joe Dante says, you know what we should do? We should reach out to him and have him be in our movie so that he can criticize it on screen, and then we have our monsters eat him. And Leonard Maltin said, that's a great idea. Speaking of more criticisms, of course, at one point there is a theater. Well, okay, we got to break this down piece by piece. Okay, this is jumping ahead, but we're going to get to it. So let's get to it now. At one point, the movie stops, just completely stops. The film breaks down, it deteriorates, and stops. And this is kind of brilliant. I love this. This is, I think, one of the best scenes in the movie.
One of the best fourth wall jokes ever.
100%. So it breaks down and it stops for a good 15 seconds. And watching this in the theater, I can imagine you must have been thinking, what happened?
Remember, this is my first time watching this. That's what I thought happened.
You thought that's what happened?
No, it's like when it turned up, it's like, okay, because I'm watching it online, right?
Right.
So
clearly
I don't have a
film.
VHS and it's burnt out. It's like, wait, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're doing shadow puppets. What the hell? And then this mother comes out of the theater screaming at the manager. It's like, what am I watching?
Fun fact. I know we're blending things, but we're going to do that. That is also based on a real life experience that Joe Dante had when at a movie theater, and a woman brought her daughter out from the theater and started yelling at Joe Dante for the horrifying content in Gremlins. Funny postscript. The child wanted to see the rest of the movie, so she ran away from her mother and hid in the movie theater until the movie was over.
Fantastic.
That girl is amazing. Yep. 5 stars to that girl.
So then it comes in and this guy, the projectionist, comes down and says, I can't deal with this anymore. I can't. Oh, so then my head goes, oh, wait, yep, okay, we're still in a Gremlins movie. Maybe? What's happening? And then the manager goes to one of the, you know what? I don't think I can do this justice. Adam, you explain what happens next.
Well, when you've got little green monsters running around and there's no one else you can turn to, there's only one man, tough enough, strong enough, and big enough, brother, to take him on. And that's Hulk Hogan. So the usher comes over, taps Hulk Hogan on the shoulder. Well, you heard it. We played it earlier. Yeah. And the Hulkster cuts a promo on the Gremlins.
And then this won't happen again. And then we're back to the movie.
You hear
like
the Gremlins.
It never happened again.
You hear the Gremlins like, ah. Which makes me go, why didn't Hulk Hogan just come in and defeat the Gremlins? If clearly the Gremlins are afraid of him.
Because they got to jump back into the film.
But that would make sense. So we're not going to do that.
So, yes, one of the best fourth wall jokes. And one of the other moments where I seriously just have a note here. So now we go back to where we were in the lab.
Yeah, let's jump back. Why not?
Where now they're drinking serum that turns them into special gremlins.
Let's go through each of these gremlins after you do your thing.
No, I'm going through the gremlins because my next note is smart gremlin, vampire gremlin, a Batman joke. I love this film.
Let's talk about the smart gremlin. He's my favorite gremlin.
Oh, yeah.
I love that gremlin. I wish he was in more of the movie.
I wish he was voiced by Vincent Price, but other than that, I love it so much.
That would have been great. Yeah, that would have been
seems
fantastic.
Like it was perfect.
Although Tony Randall did a good job.
Oh, he did great.
And of course he sings. He can sing. So
yes.
we
New York.
Although hearing Vincent Price sing New York
right?
would have been pretty good.
It brings it to that next level.
Not gonna lie. So we have Brainy Gremlin, and then we have Bat Gremlin after that.
Yep.
Now I want to touch on this for a minute because again, I know this is Gremlins, but I do want to point out a logical flaw here. So in order to get the Bat Gremlin out into New York so they can do the stat. So essentially, it's a whole thing just so they can make a gargoyle joke. And it's a good one. Don't get me wrong. It is a good joke.
That's my next note.
But they go a long way to get to this joke. They happen to find a genetic sunblock. Drew, what is the thing that kills gremlins?
The sun.
So, if you have genetic sunblock, why would you not give all the gremlins genetic sunblock?
Because he only had one syringe.
Because here's the thing. Okay, I will buy that, but also, if he's a brainy gremlin, why couldn't he figure out a way to make more of it? It's Gremlins 2. I understand. Because, and here's the thing. Don't sit there and say, well, then there wasn't a way to kill them. Because they don't die from sunlight in this one. They die from electrocution in this one.
Which we were never established was a thing.
Nope. And I have issues with that as well, which we're going to get to. So that's fine. Just a little rant about that. Doesn't make any sense. But it's Gremlins 2. So.
Did you ever see Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase?
No, I have not.
It's a good one. It's one of the... I have... If you want to watch good Scooby-Doo, you go Zombie Island, Witch's Curse, Alien Invasion, and Cyber Chase. Those are some grade A Scooby-Doo movies.
I'm kind of disappointed and terrified that you didn't mention any of the WWE ones, which we will have to review one day here on Ropes2Reels.
Because I haven't... No, see, the thing is, those are good movies for a different reason. Okay. These 4 are just quality horror animated movies.
All right. Well, I tell you what, when we do our Ropes2Reels recommends, when we eventually have to face one of these Scooby-Doo WrestleMania movies, I'll
explain in detail why all of these are great.
But anyway, recommend them.
So that in Cyber Chase, it's basically a virus that looks like this electric gremlin.
Let's talk about the electricity gremlin. So he drinks the potion that they gave to the rat earlier, and he becomes electricity.
Yep. Why didn't it happen to the rat? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And how do they trap the electric gremlin?
I'm not 100% sure, but my guess is they trap him in one of the video phones.
Yep.
By putting him on hold.
Yep.
Which doesn't make sense.
Nope. But it's Gremlins 2. That's going to be... Anytime a movie does something that doesn't make sense, it's just going to be, it's Gremlins 2. So, they trap him by putting him on hold, and he has to listen to hold music for the eternity. And I thought...
That's a pretty terrible fate.
That's cruel. I love it. So my next note here is the gargoyle joke, because my note is welcome to New York, where if a gargoyle comes to life, everyone will just show a face of minor annoyance.
Right? What is with these people's reactions to these gremlins?
And then the next note is, I wrote this before it became an actual gargoyle. Yes, but just this man is fighting off this lizard bat gargoyle creature, and he hits somebody out of the way, and he goes, hey, and just nothing, and nothing. And what? No, he's not the problem.
Yeah, great effects. Again, Rick Baker is the star. Great effects, man. Good effects.
We then cut back to Christopher Lee, who says, the horror.
Which is amazing.
An Apocalypse Now reference. I love this movie.
Female gremlin. Do we want to talk about female gremlin?
No.
We got to talk about female gremlin. I like this character. It's really, really over the top and very sexist.
It's Betty Boop in lizard form.
You know, that is a really great analogy, actually. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like the Key and Peele sketch. It was just them throwing stuff at the wall and being like, how can we just make it crazy? Well, we haven't seen a female gremlin yet, so let's do one that has hormone therapy, and then it's a woman.
It has the trans logo on the bottle, so I just wrote down it's trans gremlin. It does. I mean, this was in a time before it was,
I don't know whether to slow clap you or punch you in the face right now, but I'm going to move on. So can we say that Gremlins 2 was ahead of its time? Like a very progressive...
I mean, it wasn't a great trans character if you think about it.
I suppose not. Although, I mean, it's tough to call because they're like, are they mocking them? But it's like, no, that's kind of what a female gremlin would look like, I imagine.
Yeah, but you know what? We're getting into some dirty water here. And there's one more thing I want to bring up.
Gremlins 2 was probably never a movie that it was ever going to be sit around and discussed in political circles.
That's a valid point.
And civil rights.
Seeing as we forgot one of my favorite Gremlins.
Please talk about it.
So 2 of them are communicating in the way they do. Right. And one of them grabs this jar of acid that specifically says, do not throw on face. Immediately throws on face. And I thought, we just had a Batman joke. Is this a Two-Face joke?
No.
And then he screams and then automatically shows up with a Phantom of the Opera mask.
That perfectly fits his face.
fits his face. And later we see him play the organ. And this movie, I love this movie.
And they do the reveal scene from Phantom of the Opera.
From the original, not the Joel Schumacher one. From the original that Universal Studios did.
Yeah, which is amazing. That was a moment that made me smile very, very happy. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And I'm going to talk about Vegetable Gremlin.
Forgot about that one.
I really feel like a lot of this was just like them going to Rick Baker and being like, what do you want to do? And he was just like, ooh, could we like make one out of vegetables? That'd be fun to make. All right, man, we got a vegetable gremlin. Why not? Although I do like him showing up in the salad bar afterwards. That was a good gag. Otherwise, I have no idea what the point of this character was.
What did you come up with? What did you come up with?
Vegetable gremlin.
All right, we'll find a place.
Back to the Key and Peele sketch.
Another background joke that I really liked was the Safety Channel. And this dude coming out full of bandages. I thought, all right, throwaway gag. I dig it.
Everything in this film is kind of just either a setup for a joke or a joke in itself. I love the whole Robert Protsky character becoming the anchor after talking about that, like, that's what he always wanted to do. Yeah. And then he starts reporting on it. He does the sit-down interview with the brainy gremlin. I like that.
I have 3 notes in a row here.
Please.
So, first note, is Gizmo going Rambo?
Yes.
Second
which
note.
they also set up from him watching Rambo earlier in the film, which they apparently reached out to Sylvester Stallone to get permission for.
And he said,
and he said yes. Oh, so thank you, Sylvester Stallone.
You gave us. So my notes are: is Gizmo going Rambo? Gizmo is becoming Rambo. I continue to love this movie. Smart Gremlin is in a talk show. I still continue to love this movie.
Yeah. It is fun. It is a fun movie. Now. So we've gotten all the different gremlins we've talked about. I'm just trying to, I've lost my place regarding this film. Okay. I want to talk about the Doomsday video because when Billy goes to see Clamp.
Oh, right.
He puts this video on. This is a fun fact.
Do we even have a fun fact section anymore?
We'll have a few. We'll have a few, but we're gonna have significantly less because of all this jumping around. This is another reason why I make the comparison to Ted Turner. This is a real thing. CNN has a Doomsday video, and it looks just like that one from Gremlins 2. And it was created in the case of the apocalypse. Ted Turner had his crew put this video together so that come the end of days, they were to air this video. And it was scarily, eerily accurate to what the actual video shows.
Huh.
So that's another reason why I connect the Ted Turner thing to him as well.
Okay.
While we're on the subject of Clamp, I love the gag at the very end of the movie where he meets Gizmo and instead of doing the smart thing and breaking its neck immediately says, I see merchandising. I see this thing with suction cups hanging from people's windows, which of course was part of the first one, right? This whole movie is just basically making fun of itself, which brings me to my favorite joke in the entire movie, which is somebody makes a joke about Lincoln, and then Phoebe Cates starts to monologue about President's Day and Abraham Lincoln, just like she did about Santa Claus in the first one, which was the most out of place, messed up, weird thing in the first movie. And this is a movie with gremlins.
This is a movie where about 5 minutes later, Spider Gremlin walks up.
No. I'm talking about her speech from the first movie. It was the weirdest thing in the first movie, and that was a movie with gremlins. This one, she starts talking about that. Billy cuts her off and is like, we don't have time for this. I almost did a spit take. I laughed so hard that they remembered that joke, remembered people being like, what was that? And then them making fun of that. So good on you, Joe Dante and Charlie Haas, because that's a great joke. That's hilarious. That was my favorite gag in the whole movie.
So then we go to Crazy Dentist Gremlin.
Right.
Which is probably my hell.
You have a fear of dentists?
I have a fear of crazy dentists. Oh. Like, my dentist is a wonderful human being.
So my favorite scene from Little Shop of Horrors is one of yours.
Is my nightmare.
Is your nightmare? Like, that's what you imagine is the worst thing on
literally
planet Earth.
In my notes here. It's like Spider Gremlin. Yes. Spider Gremlin before Crazy Dentist Gremlin. Because they did a really good shot of making that thing look horrible.
Yeah.
Horrifying, I should say.
Yeah, it was a creative way to do it. And of course one of the scenes I remember was as a kid was Gizmo killing that thing with a fire bow and arrow, which
they pushed him too far.
They make a Rambo joke. Several Rambo jokes. They really liked Rambo.
Well, when Sylvester Stallone says yes, it's like, where can we put this and how often?
And they rang that bell multiple times.
I don't know if this is just great filmmaking, but do you remember when the Gremlins took away Gizmo's wristband so that they could have access to the building?
Gizmo's wristband.
Because when Gizmo was taken by the
security guards from Terminator 2.
Thank you, yes. They wrapped a band around him, and then the Gremlins take that so that they can have free reign for the building.
I don't remember that. I'm sure it was in there. I don't remember it.
So then Clamp tries to take the bandana, and he says no. So he doesn't want another band taken away from him.
Right.
Good filmmaking. Good storytelling.
Good stuff. I do like it.
And then
where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Do we talk
Frank
about
Sinatra? We talk about Frank Sinatra,
the big musical number.
The musical number where they're finally able. All right, let's talk about this plan for a second.
Yeah.
So their plan is to trick the Gremlins that it's nighttime by basically covering the bird cage.
Yeah, essentially. Which I liked.
And it worked.
Almost.
Until this storm that nobody knew was going to happen.
I liked that they were like, okay, here's the big plan. Whoops, real life. And I'm like, that's smart. And then I was genuinely wondering how they were going to finish off all these Gremlins.
Oh.
Let's talk about how they finish off all the Gremlins.
Well,
Drew.
Before that, we should talk that the female Gremlin, or trans Gremlin, is Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
It's Jessica Rabbit's introduction.
Which I didn't mind because it was very cartoony and over the top. It was funny. It was a good gag.
And then the return of Phantom Gremlin.
Yes. They gathered all the Gremlins in the lobby.
Yes, they did.
Because they were going to go. They were going to leave and start rampaging New York. So the plan to kill them with sunlight doesn't work because the storm rolls in. So how do they kill the Gremlins, Drew?
You remember that shock Gremlin that was on hold?
That's right. He was put on hold.
Literally and figuratively. So they decide to put more water on the Gremlins, which are... discount Robert Downey Jr. couldn't convince me to do anything. And this dude who's terrified of Gremlins, who has PTSD
from the first
one, his PTSD of Gremlins, says, hey, get that fire hose and spray them. And he just goes, well, okay. Ow, my foot. It makes no sense. I hurt myself.
Well, wait, why would they do that then, Drew? So it's Gremlins too.
And then they release Shock Gremlin through methods that we will never understand.
They take him off hold.
Well, yeah, but how does he travel through the wires to know exactly where to come out? Which phone? How does he know that that's the phone to come out on?
The answer to all of those questions, it's Gremlins 2.
So anyway, and then all of the Gremlins get shocked and electrocuted and explode?
Melt? They do actually make a Wizard of Oz joke.
I forgot about the Wizard of Oz
Even
joke.
in death, the Gremlins have to be sarcastic jerks, and I love them for it. They pan over all these Gremlins that are dying in horrific fashion, I might add. Rick Baker, I don't even want to know what he has nightmares about because he gives me nightmares, and I don't even want to know what goes on inside his head. But they're melting. Oh, what a world. And of course, they pan over to one of the Gremlins in a witch's hat doing that, which is great. So here's my logic mind breaker question. So does Electric Gremlin die as well? How can he die? He's pure electricity.
My theory is that he grew too much and withered to nothing.
I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I'll buy it.
Okay.
You know why?
Because it's Gremlins 2.
And that's Gremlins 2.
Yay! And then happy ending that nobody cares about. Wrap it up. Done.
Bland boy and bland girl take Gizmo home to live happily ever never because they will be eaten, I'm sure.
And they won't be happy because they can't show emotion.
That's right. And that's the movie.
I've ordered the DVD.
We're about an hour. True.
Okay.
We haven't even gotten to anything else.
No.
This is going to be the longest episode of Ropes2Reels.
You remember when we had an appreciation episode? Like, we went long on The Wrestler because it was such a deep, provocative movie. We're going over the deep, provocative movie for frickin' Gremlins 2. Adam.
I need a break.
What have we done to ourselves?
I need a break.
All right.
So we're going to take a break.
I'm going to take a shot.
And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some fun facts. We'll get to some reviews. And we'll give our personal reviews of the film.
Hey, it's at Matthew Sucrum here to tell you about the Wrasslun Show podcast. You've got
nothing. However, we have till 5 every Friday in the Wrasslun Show network. This week we're counting down on...
Do we have a problem?
Yeah, Smarky Smark here is trying to take over this commercial.
Did someone say takeover? Because on the Go Home spot, I cover all the goings on in NXT, including takeovers, as well as everything else happening in WWE and beyond.
Where did you come from, Jeff?
I just drove in.
Well, take the next exit, would you? This is my commercial.
You mean our commercial?
Cut. Try it again. I don't want this commercial to end up like some of the more regrettable movies I review on Ropes2Reels. I want it to end up like one of the good movies I review on Ropes2Reels.
Nobody asked you, Drew.
Oh, you want to go, Sparky Plug?
When you host the Wrasslun Show, the Go Home Spot, Ropes2Reels, and We Have Till 5 podcasts all on one network, spontaneous host battle royals just kind of happen. The Wrasslun Show Network, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. All right. Who's responsible for this madness? Joe Dante is responsible for this madness.
Yes, he is.
The director of the original Gremlins, but also some fantastic other movies. Small Soldiers.
Good one.
Inner Space. So we can see this guy loves working with puppets.
Yeah. And he's
loves
good at
working
it.
with puppets. Also, The Howling, another Rick Baker film. The Burbs with Tom Hanks.
Wasn't Howling with Christopher Lee as well?
He was in the sequel.
Oh, right.
And a fun fact, apparently, as soon as he got on set, Christopher Lee, the first thing he did was apologize to Joe Dante for being in The Howling 2.
It's
There you have
brilliant.
it.
Class act.
And Joe Dante also directed Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Ooh.
And I know you're a fan of that movie. Well, you like the Looney Tunes.
I do like the Looney Tunes. I don't like...
So technically, is this the second movie in which he's directed the Looney Tunes?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because they do appear at the beginning and during the credits.
Like, there are pieces of Back in Action that I like, but as movie as a whole, ugh.
Fair enough.
Anyway, beside the point.
He's directed a bunch of stuff. Very, very well-respected director. And it's written by Charlie Haas.
No.
Which surprises me because...
Not Shelton Benjamin's tag team part.
What? Oh. Just broke my heart.
Unless he is, and I'm just an idiot.
No.
Oh,
believe
okay.
me, Charlie Haas, the wrestler, did not write this. But Charlie Haas, the writer, also wrote Tron. Uncredited.
Oh.
Strange, right?
Yeah.
Why would you not want your name on Tron?
Well, it was a big gamble at the time.
It was. Speaking of gambles, he also wrote a movie that I have a ton of love for, and I'm so glad we get to talk about it briefly on here, because I never know if we're going to get a chance to again. He wrote Matinee, a 1992 flick with John Goodman, and it's all about this boy who loves movies, and John Goodman plays a William Castle-like character who is putting all kinds of gimmicks into his movies, and he takes the movie around from town to town. And I kind of have a little bit of like rose-colored glasses, nostalgic love for that sort of shticky kind of film promotion. I love the William Castle movies and things like that, like The Tingler and all kinds of stuff. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So this movie has a very special place in my heart. It's also a coming of age story about, in a time when the Cuban Missile Crisis was very much a real thing and people were afraid of that sort of stuff. And anyway, I love that movie and I feel like it never gets the love that it deserves. So I'm glad we can talk about it. I recommend that movie. Go watch Matinee. I love it.
Okay.
How much did it cost to make Gremlins 2 the new batch?
This had been a hefty one. Just to
1990.
Get all the
Remember that, 1990.
Yeah, but you got to get all the licensing too. Let's go.
It was also
12 mil.
It was also a Warner Brothers picture, so they probably had some.
Oh, they already had the rights. Yeah, let's bring it. Let's bring it down to 10.
$50 million.
Holy crap!
$50 million. Wow. Makes sense if you think about all the work.
Oh yeah, all the practical effects and everything, which I thought the twins were. I thought.
So
they were
did the
effects.
gamble pay off? How much money did Gremlins 2 the new batch make?
Ooh, Gremlins was such a cult hit. But did it get more popular as it aged? Okay, let's say 80 mil.
41.5.
Oh no.
Not only did it not make money, but this movie failed to break even as well. Apparently, audiences don't want to watch movies that are absolutely bat guano crazy. I almost cursed. Yeah, I am a little disappointed it didn't make its money back.
Yeah, me too.
Because I would like to see more of these kinds of crazy movies. All right, here we go. Fun facts.
Okay.
We already talked about the end of the world scene. In a deleted scene, the Gremlins release all of the animals in the Splice O Life lab. But during filming of this scene, the monkeys in the lab set were genuinely so terrified of the gremlin puppets that they refused to leave their cages when their trainers called for them.
Oh.
Now I'm sad. Poor monkeys.
I had no idea what they were in.
Poor monkeys. Unlike the PG-rated predecessor, Gremlins was PG. Mm-hmm. Let that soak in for a few seconds there. The MPAA rated this movie PG-13, and it is noted that the original Gremlins is one of the movies that helped create the PG-13 rating, along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh.
The movie that Grandpa Fred presents in his show as The Attack of the Octopus People is, in fact, the 1971 movie Octoman, which features the first costume designed by Rick Baker.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice little callback there, right?
Yeah.
I like that. In the original script, Randall Peltzer was to return, he's Billy's dad,
right,
as the Gremlins were killed at the end, and give Gizmo his newest invention, a wetsuit that would prevent Gizmo from ever getting wet again, therefore preventing any sort of gremlin problems in the future, provided he didn't eat after midnight. The scene was all set to shoot, and the actor who played Mr. Peltzer was available to shoot the scene. But the filmmakers figured that the movie was already running too long, and they'd never use the scene anyway, so it was never shot. What? What? Look at this movie and sit there and say, that scene that we were going to shoot that wraps everything up into a nice bow and would explain people not being morons? Yeah, you know what? We don't need that.
No, it's the charm. The charm of this is everyone's an idiot. Or emotionless.
Couldn't believe it. Joe Dante told Cahiers du Cinéma in 1990 that Warner Brothers opened this movie directly opposite Dick Tracy in an attempt to keep the box office record set by Batman from being broken.
Huh.
Now, I want to state that's Joe Dante saying that. Mm-hmm. So it could just be him saying, well, that's the reason our movie didn't make more money, is because they knew it wouldn't make as much against Dick Tracy. Also a great movie that I recommend, or at least a movie that I remember fondly. Maybe someday we'll talk about it. But interesting little note from the director there. So after Gremlins became a surprise success, Warner Brothers immediately wanted a sequel, but Joe Dante had said he'd had enough Gremlins for a while and declined. That didn't stop them, though. Work on Gremlins 2 proceeded without him, and the studio approached various directors and writers. Storylines considered included sending the Gremlins to cities like Las Vegas. That would have been awesome.
Yes.
And they are working on a third one right now, so
just put it in Vegas.
Use in Vegas. I think that'd be cool. And Mars. Gremlins in space.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Tough sell.
Yeah, no.
It's a tough sell.
Yeah, you can have more fun in Vegas than you can on Mars.
Agree. After these ideas fell through, the studio finally asked Dante again, who agreed. And here we go. This is the reason we have the movie we do. He agreed on the condition that he would be allowed to do anything he wanted.
Oh, this man.
And received a bigger budget.
This man is our messiah.
In the DVD commentaries, which you'll be able to listen to since you've ordered it.
Yes.
For both the original and the sequel, Dante stated that he felt Gremlins 2 was a case of waiting too long to capitalize on the success of the original, which hurt the sequel's chances of success. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that you turned the crazy up to 100?
I don't know. I'm kind of digging it more than the original, I'll be honest.
Well, guess what? So does Joe Dante. Our final fun fact is that Dante has said that he prefers this film to the original. Who would make a better president, Donald Trump or his film counterpart, Clamp?
No, isn't Forrester his counterpart?
Depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
I mean, he was the character is based off Donald Trump. Tell you what, we'll do two.
All right.
First of all, Clamp or Trump.
Clamp.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty no-brainer. He at least cares about people. He's a bit of an egomaniac, but he's the ideal version of Donald Trump that I think we wish we had.
That's about, yes, 100%.
Forrester or Trump.
God, they both suck.
I'm going to say Forrester because in the end, he marries the trans gremlin, or at least he seems to be okay with it.
See that as a good thing.
Well, he at least doesn't want to kill it.
The first part's not the bad part. It's the second part we need to worry about. Well. Because here's what you're failing to recognize here. So we know that they spawn new gremlins after being wet. They spawn new gremlins after eating. We don't know if they get pregnant. What could that spawn?
Okay. You've made a good point. I'm just going to let that sit there. I do not want to talk about this anymore. That's all that needs to be said. There is no need. In fact, just sitting here talking about not talking about it is making me think about it, which is making me really uncomfortable. I don't want to think about it. What was the percentage on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie?
I'm probably 20.
No. Critics like this one. 67%. So not terrible.
Good.
29 fresh reviews, 14 rotten.
Oh, so, that's actually, good.
It was all right.
Wow.
Let's read some positive reviews for the film.
Yep.
From Michael Sagrow of The New Yorker. This uninhibited and uproarious monster bash, directed by Joe Dante, is more quick-witted and ironic than the original. It sets forth a savvy, slap-happy agenda before the opening credits and follows it straight through to the end and even beyond. That's a great review.
Yeah.
And I will say that that is true. If there's one thing you can give this movie credit for, it sticks with it. It does not let up at all.
It knew what it wanted and went for it.
It sure does. From Janet Maslin of New York Times, Gremlins 2 speaks to the gleeful, hell-raising monster in each of us, and it speaks with much more verve, cleverness, and good humor than the film on which it's based. Add this to the very short list of sequels that nearly surpasses their predecessor. It's a fair review. And Desson Thompson from the Washington Post says, a devilishly, hysterically, cacklingly, subversively funny picture that builds and builds until it literally self-destructs. I think that gets the award for most accurate review of the film.
Yeah, hard to argue.
But not everybody liked the film.
No, not everybody does.
We did have some people who didn't like it, including a god of film critics, Roger Ebert, who said, too many gremlins, not enough storyline. Yeah,
fair.
I mean, he's not wrong.
No.
He's not wrong. Also, Derek Adams, who said there's almost enough in-joke ingenuity to justify the total absence of plot. Almost.
Almost? No,
Almost.
I think it was perfect.
Fair enough. And without question, my favorite review from Kayla Comta, my wife on Facebook.
All right.
Who writes, Saturday night movie night, the Wrasslun show and Ropes2Reels voters owe me an hour and 46 minutes of my life back.
Oh, that's good.
The prior hour plus has all been worth it just so I could quote my wife as a negative review for this movie.
Oh, damn.
So, Drew, what did you think of Gremlins 2, The New Batch?
I love this movie. I love it for all the wrong reasons. Well, no, actually, I think I love it for all the right reasons. I got the jokes. I understood what they were going for. It was well shot, well paced. The effects were incredibly done. If I would change anything, I'd get real Robert Downey Jr. and real Winona Ryder.
I also like this movie. Not nearly as much as you like it, but I do like this movie. The film analyst in me struggles with it because there's so much wrong with this movie. But I think you also have to consider the heart of the film and the intent of the filmmaker. That's so important. And I think Joe Dante's intent with this movie was to make a B movie monster movie with an A movie budget. And he did that. And to be fair, it is very short on plot, but it balances itself by being huge on in-jokes and fourth wall gags and everything that makes this movie kind of fun. I get why my wife hates this movie. I do, because it is... If you cannot appreciate stuff like creature features and B movies and silliness for the sake of silliness, this may be the most annoying movie in the history of mainstream film. I get that. But as someone who can appreciate the slapstick and who can appreciate the in-jokes and can appreciate the intent of the filmmaker, I also love this movie. I do love this movie. So what is your pay-per-view comparison for the film?
I think I'm going TNA.
Just TNA in general?
No, it's specific.
Just TNA?
Yeah, just TNA. No, I'm going the first lockdown.
Okay, explain.
Because the first lockdown is very much a gimmick idea. You know, every single match is inside the 6 heads of steel, and that's what brings you to it. This is Gremlins 2. The original Gremlins was good, so it brings you to it. What you get, though, is not what you're expecting. Like, I don't know if you were expecting a tables match inside of 6 sides of steel. I wasn't. If you're expecting this man's last match, Chris Candido, it was his last match. Oh. Yeah, I know. And then when you come in and see AJ Styles and Abyss, that match barely takes place inside the cage. And then there's Lethal Lockdown, something incredibly new. Well, not incredibly new, but at least something new for the era. It was a real... You go in expecting one thing, you get something ultimately different, but I was thoroughly entertained through that entire pay-per-view.
I am going to take a different route, although I want to say that is an excellent analogy. Well done. I'm going to go with the Insane Clown Posse's Bloody Mania 4.
What is this?
So maybe you haven't heard about this, but you're familiar with the Insane Clown Posse?
Yes, I don't know how magnets work.
Well, neither do they, so it's all right. Well, they have their own wrestling promotion.
Damn.
Juggalo Championship Wrestling is the name of it. And they have a big event every year called Bloody Mania. And they spend a ton of money to do stupid, crazy, insane things with legendary wrestlers and their own guys. And it's about as off the wall and crazy as Gremlins 2. So I'm going to go with Bloody Mania 4. It doesn't matter. I could have put any number in there, but I'm going to go with 4 because I know you can actually purchase that one.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Insane Clown Posse's Bloody Mania is... by the way, we are going to review... for anybody out there, we will be reviewing both of their movies on Ropes2Reels eventually. And you should see, I think Andrew's eyes just got as big as saucers right now. So,
they made movies?
2 of them, actually, yes. Big Money Hustlers and Big Money Rustlers. Yes, one of them is a Western. And yes, they're both connected to wrestling. So one day, we will be reviewing both of those movies.
Oh.
I don't know where else to go from here. I think we just need to breathe, take a little time to rest because, man, you really need it after watching Gremlins 2, The New Batch, and talking about it for over 60 minutes.
Oh, dear.
Thank you so much for wading through this with us, this pile. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. So your call to action this week is to share this with someone who likes insanity, because boy, that's what this episode was. Rate and review us on iTunes. Drew, any calls to action to the listeners before we wrap things up?
Yeah, because like you said, this is a B movie. It's a schlock movie. It's something incredibly dumb, but that's its purpose, is being incredibly dumb and fun. I want to know if somebody has a favorite B movie.
All right. Tweet at, well, what is it going to be?
It's going to be Sir F Word. As soon as we're done here, you're going to see a change.
Tweet at Sir F Word. And use the hashtag Ropes2Reels. So, until next week, which reminds me, Drew, what are you choosing for next week's movie?
So I'm thinking I want to get as many genres as possible in here.
Okay.
So one thing we haven't tackled yet, superhero movies.
Well, Suburban Commando.
Shush. That's an alien movie. So
I consider the Hulkster a superhero.
Yeah, you consider the Hulkster a superhero. Do you consider the Suburban Commando a superhero?
He's my hero.
All right, fine. But we haven't done a true to form superhero movie, a comic book superhero movie.
You're right.
That's
we
better.
have not done that.
So there were a lot of options, but I wanted to go with actually, I think, my personal favorite. So I think next week it'd be fun to watch Thomas Jane's The Punisher.
Ooh. You know, I'm not going to lie. I thought about this one. Mm-hmm. It's a good one. I like it. Great. We are going to watch The Punisher. Speaking of real quick then, did you see the trailer for the new Punisher series? Looks great, right?
Yeah,
did that inspire you a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
That's fair.
Skip.
That's fair. There we go. 2004's The Punisher is next week's movie, so go out and watch it so that you can watch it with us. And until that time, I'm at Adam Kota.
I'm at Sir F Word now. Drew Ferris.
And for Gremlins 2, the new batch, thank God. That's a wrap.
Can we put the Hulkster in it?
What? You talking about putting Hulk Hogan, professional wrestler turned actor turned cultural icon, in the movie where he break the fourth wall of the movie he's in by talking to the audience. You, sir, are a raging psychopath. Don't let this town take that away from you. That's it. I don't even care anymore. We got the Hulkster in it, so it's done.
This has been a presentation of the